The movie is greater than everyone or anything that has ever existed in the history of the world. So
Where are we? I got a feeling we're not in Brooklyn no more.
I am Tom Springer. I am known as MetalLoud. I have a YouTube channel where I rant and rave about music that I enjoy and sometimes that I hate, as well as I regularly defend movies like the Star Wars prequels that everyone seems to be weirdly obsessed with disliking for some reason, despite them being fantastic movies. And that's generally what I do.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Tom. We have been Twitter friends for a couple years now. I want to say, right?
Yeah, it's probably been a couple of years at least.
Yeah. Again, thank you for joining me, and it's nice to have you on finally after all this time. Um, I love what you do, and I love your personality on Twitter. Uh, and I love that since I started up this version of the show again, let's talk about movies, where I bring on a guest to talk about a movie that means a lot to them in a positive or negative light, just something that you want to grab someone else by the shoulders and say, you have to watch this movie so you understand me. That could be a good or a bad thing. The movie you chose, I think, has a reputation for that negative version of that reaction.
Yeah.
You chose to bring on the Super Mario Brothers movie from 1993 starring Bob Hoskins and oh no, I forgot his name. And
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo. I didn't put it in my notes because I was like, I love John Leguizamo. I'm not going to forget his name. There's no reason to do that.
How could you forget?
Oh, that's
how could
really
you forget
bad.
him from starring in such hit films as the Super Mario Brothers and Pest
And Ice Age.
and Ice Age?
And because I'm Mexican, Latinos, we kind of few and far between in that industry. So I've always liked him. I've always been a fan. Oh, this is off to a very bad start. I apologize. But you brought this movie on,
I did.
and I think you have a different take on this movie than most people.
I think it is the greatest video game movie that has ever been made, and I think that is a fantastic, charming, lovely, well-produced, despite being a horrific behind-the-scenes mess, just a very a good movie. It's a good movie.
When did you first watch this movie? I want to get into the history of this movie for you and I before we get into the history of the rest of the movie and then the movie itself.
So my history with the Super Mario Brother movie, we had this video rental store that is now was a Sleepy's. It is a mattress firm now, but it was basically where we went because Blockbuster was horrific with their late fees and all that jazz. So we were like, we're not doing that game. So we used to go there all the time, and I liked Super Mario Brothers because we had an NES, and that's what I used to play a lot. So it kind of caught my attention that, hey, there's this Super Mario Brothers movie, and also like that cover is awesome. It's simplistic, it's minimalistic. I love that cover, and it caught my attention as a kid. So I used to basically just rent that movie every single time that we went. And it became like one of my favorite movies to watch and rent.
I did not watch this movie. I was relatively new to the world when it was released, so I didn't watch it in theaters or anything. I didn't see it until I was like maybe 9 or 10, and there was a rerun on the Disney Channel, and I was like, I love the Disney Channel. And then I caught it, and even at that age, I recognized that something was off about the movie for me. I was like, because at that age, you're like, every movie's awesome. Movies are great, and movies are great. That's why I do this show. But back then, I was like, something's not right here. I can't quite put my finger on it, but something's not right here. And then you get older, you hear about the reception, you get into the history of the film. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo taking shots in between takes. And God bless them. I think they're both genuinely fantastic in the movie. And so I am happy to announce that regardless of all of that, as I rewatched this movie the other day in preparation for this episode, I had the time of my life with the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yes. See?
Is it good? I don't know. I think trying to define movies as good or bad definitively is a boring exercise, anyways.
It's
All I know
entertaining.
is that this was a lot of fun, and it's bizarre and gonzo, and is the sort of weird that is a specific artifact of the '90s, which I greatly
Yes.
admire.
Yes, it is it is a product of its time. I don't necessarily think it like I think there's better movies to show off kind of like what I consider like quintessential 90s movies. For instance, Biodome, another gem. But I think it's definitely a product of its time, and I think that's why it works for me. Which I mean, if we're talking about like why I think the movie actually does not deserve the negativity it gets, if you think back to the 90s, like what was movie technology like for creating video games? Like if you were going to make the Super Mario Brothers movie in the 90s, what would you do? Like how would you make it?
Jesus, I don't even know. I wouldn't try. I'd just be like, no, we're not. I'd want it animated, but then I think
Okay.
everyone would be like, no one would want to watch that. And now that's the new version of the movie that's coming out is going to be animated. So
Yeah, but like now they could do all kinds of different things with animation and CGI and whatever. So it kind of it works now, but like back then, given the budget that they were given, they didn't. Nobody really believed in this. Nintendo didn't
yeah,
give a shit. So I just think that like given the restraints that they were under with the budget, the time they were in, this is the best possible outcome.
the production is a lot. Like again, like let's not try to quantify this as like you think it's genuinely like a good movie though, right? Just to make the record clear.
It's entertaining. I think
Okay.
it's entertaining. I think it's the best that they could do. I think that like do I think it's Citizen Kane? No, but I mean it's definitely I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not boring. It's not offensively just dragging or anything like that. So it's something to watch.
Yeah, that's where I fall into now as well. The production design is like amped to 20 for this thing. It's like part Tim Burton, Batman, Gotham, uh, heavy Blade Runner vibes going
Yes.
on.
Yes.
And it's just like, why were those the design? Like, why were those the inspirations for the design for this movie? I don't know, but that's awesome.
Yeah, like who cares?
And like outside of John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, the late great Bob Hoskins, you also have the late great Dennis Hopper. And I want to
Yes.
say that both of these actors are having the time of their lives. They might have had a hell of a time on set, but like I think they genuinely give good performances for the material that they're given. And then Fisher Stevens, fucking Fisher. Just because I was a kid, I didn't know who Fisher Stevens was. I didn't know he was in this movie technically until like I saw this. And then even I don't want to spoil it, but there's another great actor cameo at the very end, which just like blew my mind that this person was in this movie. But then if you look at their resume, it's like, oh yeah, they're kind of in everything. But if you've been listening and watching my shows for a while, it's a character or a character actor from the Alien franchise. So
Yes.
I was just like in shock. All these people were in this movie, and they're not bad. They're
No,
not bad at
they're
all.
like I said, despite like if you had never heard what was happening behind the scenes, I maybe it was just because I watched it as a kid, but like I seriously I try watching it now, I still don't pick up on like what was actually happening. Like it doesn't really come through to me. I mean, Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins are absolutely unhinged in this, like absolutely unhinged, and it's great. But like I don't get the sense that like they were drunk or anything like that.
Yeah, like they totally were. I believe.
Yes,
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
loaded the entire time.
but they're like you couldn't tell from this. Like they're giving genuine performances. You're right, unhinged, but you kind of got to be to match the material with the like the Goomba designs alone are just
Oh,
fucking
so
crazy,
great,
you know. And
great.
I personally I don't care if you're like adapting something and it's not accurate to the source materials. Like who gives a fuck, you know?
Seriously,
Like grow up. It's an adaptation. I don't care that fucking Captain America has like less stripes than he does in the comic, or he doesn't have the chainmail. Like, oh my god,
rubber
who cares?
ears.
Or rubber. Yeah, like come on, guys, it's fucking not. It's not real. So like, but even for me, like it's hilarious how like complete every decision from the Super Mario games is inversed in the movie. Where like the Goombas are like short little things with giant heads. They're like huge, ginormous things with little heads. And like the mushrooms are like these really appealing things, but now there's mushrooms everywhere.
The
And it's
fungus.
just like, what? Who
Like,
decided this?
well, like that's okay. So that's another thing about this movie, as far as like that's the one of the biggest criticisms people give it is that it's nothing like the video games. But if you play the first, I mean, this came out in 1993, so I think Super Mario World had come out, or was that? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Super Mario World was out.
There was like three out already, I think.
One, two, and well, two was that whole mess of what do you call it? Where it was Doki Doki Panic or whatever and all that jazz. Okay, yeah, Super Mario World was out because that was released 1990s. So at this point, though, still Mario hadn't really branched into telling a narrative in any way, shape, or form. So there's no like, what do you adapt? Like, what do you actually know about Mario at this point in time? Like, I mean, it's to be fair, it's clear that nobody on this movie actually gave a shit about Mario or knew anything about Mario. But like, if you truly cared about Mario and made a Mario movie, there's no story. Like, there's nothing there other than this dude who's vaguely a plumber because there's pipes is riding a dinosaur and rescuing a princess from another turtle mutant thing. Like, that's all there is to go on. So what do you really adapt from that?
Yeah, no, there's nothing, man. Like, I love me some video games. Most video games in general, like even nowadays, their stories are not good. If we had to quantify them, most of them are generally pretty terrible. They take you through the mechanics of the gameplay, and that makes them palatable. But oh my god, like structure is a thing that we need to start like talking about with video game like more nowadays. So back then, where there's absolutely nothing, this is very commendable in my opinion. That they came up with all this weird fantasy sci-fi mumbo jumbo. And for this movie, I want to go as far as saying that for this movie, the world building is actually solid. There's a foundation there,
Yeah,
at the very least.
they're absolutely. I mean, you understand what's happening. I mean, you understand that there's this semi-post-fungalyptic world where shit's happening. There's a king that was turned into goo. There's an evil lord that's taken over. I mean, it's you know, and plus, like, it kind of builds this, like, you know, he's the king in the tower, and you explore the seedy underbelly, and then he has the police force that's doing his bidding and stuff. So it does a good job kind of telling you what's happening in that world, and then explaining, you know, it makes it feel like a place.
Yeah, it's very lived in, which
Yes.
is well, again shocking because this is like just the most bizarre shit. Because it really does. It also does kind of feel like throw everything that's like that's got iconography from the biggest fantasy and sci-fi productions of the last decade prior to this movie.
Oh
But
yeah.
also, here's like a basic through line of recurring elements for the audience to pick up on, like basic setup and payoff stuff. Like, oh, what? They're like these little the mushroom things. Oh, are those gonna come back later? Probably. The little the way things like fall down from the fungus, like the classic Mario items.
Yes.
You know, it's like it's all there in a really weird, distorted version of itself.
The bomb.
Yeah, the bombs, which I always loved. So like watching again, like was a lot of fun for me. Watching how this just like this ticking time bomb goes off for like 10 minutes of the movie. I was like, this is like the fucking van from Inception falling out. You know?
Yeah, but the payoff is great.
I was like, it happens. I don't know if it's great, but it happens. And you know what? Sure. So many like weird, like troubled production blockbusters nowadays. You know, like everything's so like corporate and bland. You know, like if there's like a disaster happening, like it's usually not very fun to watch. It's just like oof, like you could tell like this got butchered. You know, like
Yeah.
I love me some Predator, some Shane Black Predator. It ain't good, and you can tell why it's not good. Or Venom, you know, like Venom has like moments that work because Tom Hardy's fucking crazy, but it's not like it's a very corporate movie, and that stops it from like reaching peak weirdness like the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, that's very true. I think what also kind of helped in this is if I remember correctly, like I said, Nintendo did not give a shit about this, and this was like basically why they started giving a shit about their properties, because of the negative feedback it had. If I remember correctly, like as far as giving them guidance and talking about like what they should or shouldn't do in the movie, they basically didn't do anything. They almost wanted like nothing to do with it. Uh, I'm trying to see if I can. I'm pretty sure that's kind of how it was. I'm trying to remember it basically. Like I know obviously they had to have gotten the like the script and read all that stuff and given them the rights to it. Yeah, Nintendo had no interest in creative control basically and believed that Mario was strong enough to withstand an American experiment.
Thank you, Nintendo.
Yeah, so
Because I believe they succeeded, but not many people do, I guess.
yeah, so like that's I kind of think what kind of helped it was the fact that Nintendo wasn't standing over their shoulder constantly and saying, you can't do this, you can't have Big Bertha being a big woman, you can't do that. Um, you know, I think like that helped, or like forcing him to make like Yoshi a cute little, I mean he is a cute little character, but he's not like, let's say, Jar Jar Binks or the Ewoks or
Yeah, and he's also not like uh, I don't know. Like, he's a dinosaur, but he's not like that. You know, there's
yeah,
more personality to him than just like a pet.
yeah, and the animatronics are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean Jurassic Park came out the same year, but I mean who could have fucking expected that?
Well,
You
yeah,
know, like
that's
for the time, relatively,
going
this
up.
is pretty good.
Yeah, going up against Jurassic Park. That's like Yoshi going up against the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, like it's just not fair.
No. But I mean, I think they did a good job. Well, you know what? He's not the fucking monkey thing from Lost in Space. Did you see that movie?
So long ago,
Oh my
but
god.
I don't remember the monkey thing. I just remember Gary Oldman and all the weird shit in that movie.
Okay, so whatever. But like that's basically, yeah. They could have, if Nintendo had been standing over her shoulder. I almost guarantee like that's what we would have ended up with. We would have ended up with something where it was a lighthearted adventure, but I think it would have played things safe. You wouldn't have the fucking cop car chase thing into the desert and all that.
Oh yeah, there's like an elongated cop chase in these like they're normal cop cars, but they try to make them like more sci-fi, and it's like no, they're just regular cop cars. It's okay, you don't have to. We know, we know. But there's like these epic explosions and shit, and I'm just like, whoa, this is the Mario Brothers movie. Like, calm down, but also keep going.
Yes, start it off. I mean, like, just go with it at that point. Like, have fun.
I think that's when I was fully won over by it.
I
Like I was kind of digging it. Like, all right, there's some weird shit going on here that that makes someone like me very happy. Just the way like I watch movies. But then by that point, I was like, all right, we're fucking in this now. We're amping this bitch to 11. Let's fucking go.
yes, I mean, they just they really quite literally went off the rails with the movie, and I mean, but that's the thing, like, and as a kid, I remember those were the things that drew me to it, like that the car chase thing. I love my favorite scene is the mattress ride where they rescue all the princesses
Oh yeah,
or the
that's
whatever they are.
genuinely a pretty good action scene too.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's charming. I mean, that's the scene I like the most as a kid. I just thought it'd be really cool to ride a mattress down a iced pipe or whatever.
Yeah, why was it an ice pipe?
I
I,
don't
I'm
know.
I'm I'm very unclear on that,
I
but you
don't
know what? It
know.
was a fun scene.
The only thing that gets to me about this movie and where I think you can kind of get a sense of the behind the scenes issue is it is kind of the tone is a little bit polarized, I would say. Like there's some pretty dark moments in this movie, but then there's also like goofy shit, and I kind of get the sense of like one wanted to go in one direction, and like corporate overlords or someone was saying, no, you can't do this. It has to be for the kids.
Yeah, I think this is where the genuine issues start coming in for me.
Yeah.
It is. I do find it very tonally inconsistent,
Yes.
and I don't know who this is for. Like at the end of the day, it's for me, but they did not aim to make a movie for Diego Crespo from Southern California. They aimed to make a movie for people that I couldn't tell you about because it is a child video game property, but
Yes.
it stars Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, and they're saving not a prince, well, a princess, but not initially a princess, Daisy. There is no Princess Peach in
No
this,
peach. No peach.
and those are the characters that children at the time and now would recognize still.
Yes.
And so the fact that they are not in that again, it's the weird inverse of the video game where it's like Luigi's the main character now, and he's saving Princess Peach. No, Daisy.
Daisy.
Oh, okay, like it's fine, but it's just like weird that that's the route that they took. You know?
Yeah, like I said, I really think that like the people who made this movie had no idea what Mario was. Or had I don't think they like I think they had maybe seen the cover art but or read something about it somewhere, but I don't think they had any idea what Mario was, and I almost feel like it works out for the better, but at the same time calling it the Super Mario Brothers movie, I mean, I'm split because I will defend it as the best possible outcome that a Super Mario Brothers movie could have. I don't really, unless they had gone the animated route, which I think would have been too safe, too boring, too whatever. I don't think there's any other way they could have done a live action Mario Brothers movie and not have it turn out like this, basically. But
It's funny that we keep talking about like how the hands at Nintendo were like the hands off on the project, right? And like maybe things would be different. Like the Assassin's Creed movie was very like in touch with Ubisoft, and that's not like the worst movie ever. I think that movie gets a bad rap too, but it's not like that's another one that's if you had to quantify it, it's not good. Um, the Warcraft movie, which I actually think is a really great movie. I will go to bat for that movie. That, in my opinion, that's the best video game movie.
okay.
But that was also torn between like Legendary, Universal, and Blizzard Productions. And so honestly, I think this is the like I think these production companies need to like lay off when they give their properties a way to be adapted. I think the less cooks in the kitchen, the better, because it's a strain on the filmmakers. They're the ones that have their hands and feet in the trenches every day, day in, day out, making decisions and having to answer to multiple parties on different occasions, sometimes same occasions. Like we're all just human beings. Like that's fucking ridiculous. to me that people have to go through that and like appease all these different parties. It's like if you want your stuff to be adapted, you have to trust the people that you're giving that property to adapt. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing here. I mean, I think the problem is they're worried about getting something like this, and they're worried about something that's so kind of abstract that people don't recognize it as being what it's supposed to be. You know, and if you showed this movie to somebody and didn't tell them that it was a movie about the Super Mario Brothers, I mean, they'll probably pick up on it, but like if you cut the scenes where they talk about, the Mario Brothers, which I guess is a lot, but I don't think you would recognize this as a Super Mario Brothers movie.
I think if you showed kids nowadays, and then by the end it's revealed that it's because they really start bringing up the Super Mario Brothers at the very end a lot. And
Yeah.
so then it's like, oh, I was watching a Mario Brothers movie the whole time. I think they'd be weirded out, but I think they would have enjoyed themselves to getting to that point, you know?
That's the thing, yeah. I think it's an overall enjoyable movie. I just think people focus too much on the fact that it's labeled as the Super Mario Brothers movie, and they're forcing themselves to be like, where is Princess Peach? Where is, this? Oh, this isn't Bowser. Or King Koopa? Like, what the hell is this? Luigi's not the main character. Fuck Luigi. Although Luigi was always the better character, but whatever.
Luigi is a hero,
Yes.
and people need to check their lane.
Exactly. I was always Luigi because I had an older brother, so that's kind of what I mean. Like, I think they just get too caught up in it being a Super Mario Brothers movie, and I mean, I'll go out on the limb, and I know I'm probably going to be alone on this, but I would say it is a good Super Mario Brothers adaptation. I mean, it's absolutely out of control. It's abstract as fuck, but like I think that's part of why it works, especially for the time period as far as what we had in terms of structure and character and storyline at that point. But I can at least understand why people don't think the same, but I think they focus too much on that.
I can't agree with your sentiment about it being a good Mario Brothers movie, but I basically agree with like everything else you're saying, so that's fine.
That's fair.
I also want to say that it reminds me a lot of this is a better movie I'm about to bring up. It's one of my favorite movies, Batman Returns. Batman Returns is a terrible adaptation of Batman. All the Tim Burton Batman movies are terrible adaptations of Batman, but they're good Tim Burton movies, you know? And
Yes.
those are significantly better than this. I want to make that clear. I think those are significantly better. Specifically Batman Returns, which is like a top 3 Tim Burton movie. But those are like also I find myself thinking about similar situations with those characters and worlds where it's like that's not the Penguin. That's not Selena Kyle. That's not Bruce Wayne. Like what the fuck has happened? But it's such a great movie about these characters and their world that they live in, you know? And Mario
Yeah.
Brothers is like that's not Mario Brothers. That's not King Koopa. But it's so like idiosyncratic and like so specifically weird but so broad and like and colorful and just there's nothing else like it. Like I really do think everyone should watch this movie at least once. You might hate it.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I get it. If you don't like this movie, I get it. But make sure you at least like check it out because it's too weird not to see.
So it's really funny that you mention Tim Burton and specifically Batman because that was actually like a huge influence on the everyone involved in this movie.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like as in a direct quote, they talk about like they came from the school of Tim Burton and they wanted this to be like a take a darker approach. They basically said like we're not. One of the quotes they said about the darker approach was, "This wasn't Snow White and the Seven Dinosaurs. The dino world was dark. We didn't want to hold back."
I mean, it's not like there are dark moments and stuff, but it's not like a dark movie. It's just bizarre.
It is,
like
but like I don't know, especially as like a kid, some of those things like the um the protester getting turned into one of the Goombas,
Oh yeah, that's like crazy fucked up.
or the de-evolution machine in general. That thing is like, that was terrifying as a kid. I don't know, like I didn't want to get de-evolved into a dinosaur.
No, it's like some Cronenberg type imagery right there
Yeah.
going on, honestly. And I'm very surprised that again this movie exists in any capacity for any number of sequences that it
That's
portrays.
that's a movie I want to see. David Cronenberg's Super Mario Brothers.
Oh fuck yeah!
That would be amazing.
I this is as close as we're gonna get, but oh yeah, fuck yeah! Like it's too bad that that dude swore off like all big productions in Hollywood
Yeah,
because that would just be like mind blowing.
that would be fantastic. I would love to see it. This is the thing. Like this movie has so many like influences of just weird other movie makers. I mean, there's Cronenberg like moments, there's Lynchian moments, there's Ridley Scott moments. It's just like I feel like they sat down and watched the Tim Burton movies, Blade Runner, and like The Fly, and just then went to work.
You know, honestly, like you hear about like production screening other movies, and be like, "This is what we're going for," like to be inspired by. That's probably the list of movies that you just gave. That's probably the list of movies that they screened, and then like you know the PAs are just like, "Are we making the Mario Brothers movie?" Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I keep saying like these people had no idea what Super Mario Brothers or anything was. Absolutely no idea, and I really think that was for the better. I think we needed people who had never played a video game or understood it to make this movie. Because like I said, the fucking nerds who play video games would have been like so caught up on making it true to the Mario Brothers lore that it just would have been boring as shit.
Yeah, there's Max Landis, awful, terrible human being. But he wrote a Mario Brother script that was like this 400-page epic, and I never made it all the way through because he's a terrible writer and a terrible person.
Yes.
But it's if you're interested in like a science experiment or like a further reading of like what could go wrong by someone who genuinely loves these properties. Like just because you're a fan doesn't mean you're the right person for the job.
Yeah.
It's very important that people understand that. Across the board in like any fandom, please understand that. Because a lot of you don't, and it really shows. But if you want like the prime example of what could go wrong from a fan perspective, read that. Just a little bit of it. Because that's like every major Nintendo property shoved into like this Mushroom Kingdom epic, and it's awful.
Oh,
you know, and
God.
don't worry, he won't. He's not getting notoriety for that or anything. Okay, you don't have to
God.
worry about supporting a garbage human being like that. It's just available on the internet, and it is just like unbelievable. So I prefer this. I prefer the movie.
I mean,
The movie's bastardization, and not even bastardization. That sounds mean. Because I don't dislike this movie at all. There's stuff that doesn't work, for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like everyone's already talked about that. You know, like let's take a moment to celebrate the little movie that couldn't, but should have.
Yes. I mean, anybody who says that the fans are the ones that should make the movies has never read a fan fiction in their life. Because you would not be saying that if you have ever read a fanfic ever. And not to knock fanfics, 'cause some of them are good, some of them are interesting. But like, you don't get shit like this, first of all. You get like creepy weird and bizarre, but it's usually involving like Mario and Yoshi having some sort of weird relationship.
Oh my god.
But like, you don't get this. And like they're usually generally terrible because they're focused too much on being true to the source material and being like, you know, it's just to talk about another thing where fans have absolutely ruined everything. Star Wars The Last Jedi, that hasn't been talked about enough. I mean, like, everyone's focusing so much on, like, I mean, it was so weird to me to hear people crying about Luke Skywalker not being Luke Skywalker, as if, like, he's like a different character. Like, I don't know, to me the Dark Luke seems like a logical conclusion, but whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's the King Arthur thing where he's like, "Oh no, my life might not have amounted to much," and then in the end, it does anyways. It's heck, it's all there, guys. Like, sorry, your understanding of movies is limited to like Star Wars and Marvel stuff now, but holy fuck.
yeah, it blew my mind that that was one of the fucking complaints about it. But that's what I'm talking about. Imagine if we got the fan version, or the I'm using air quotes here, but fan version of The Lost Jedi. Like, imagine how bad that would fucking be. Like, that's what I'm thinking if we had gotten the fan version of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
God, oh, God help us. But like, I think, because like I don't dislike fan fiction myself either, but there's definitely a through line for the majority of it where fan fiction is to appease the fans. It's not a lot of it might not be focused on telling a legitimate story, and some are plenty are, I'd argue. Also, like there's
Yeah.
this epic Teen Titans one that's like the longest literature thing ever written, and it's available online for free. It's crazy. I've never read it, but apparently it's the longest manuscript ever written. Um,
Holy shit.
but like the point of fan fiction is just to appease the fans. It's not worried about telling a legitimate story that lasts for more than like one reading or viewing experience. A story, especially in a film, is so much more like complex and like detailed. And there's so many other like things you have to worry about. Like how to visually tell your story, how to get the performances out of your actors, how to make a safe work environment. And it's just like fucking bizarre that you people think you could do. You should be in charge of productions like this, but whatever. This movie was a trip as fuck.
Yeah, I just I also like I'm a sucker for stories that like start off in modern world or like our world and then suddenly get transported like basically like Wizard of Oz type shit or Alice in Wonderland.
This is straight up Wizard of Oz
It
at
is.
times.
It is very very much so, but I almost half expected it to be like a dream. But I'm a sucker for that stuff, but I think this movie did it like really kind of in a way that like, do you remember that Reign of Fire, that fucking dragon movie?
Yes, which is
Where-
awesome, and we
which
actually did an
yeah.
episode about it for our kaiju show.
Oh
So
dear
check
God,
that out.
that movie is really really good, but it's also really fucking long. It feels like it's 8 hours long.
Yeah, it's a little too long.
But what I mean is it's got that same sense of like there's something else going on, and maybe like our world isn't like what we think it is. It'll, you know what I mean? Like there's this secret passage, or there's this secret hiding underneath the streets of New York.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a fantasy like colliding with what we believe to be like the natural world. You know?
and it's done in like a kind of it's almost done in a it's almost believable. Like it's almost like one of those movies where I feel like the History Channel would do a fucking documentary on how we actually evolved from dinosaurs because the meteorite split our universes or something. Like that's almost pseudoscience, but like can be presented as totally believable.
I I don't know about that, but I really love where you're going with it anyways. Like I don't think I agree, but I love this.
I feel like, and I don't mean like it's fucking believable. Like
Oh no,
obviously,
no,
I
yeah.
don't believe that shit. But I feel like it's one of those things where if you had enough people with beards and PhDs in sweet and sour sauce or something, that if you put them in front of a TV and had them say smart things about it, that it could be a actual documentary that would have people being like, holy shit, maybe this is a thing. I mean, people believe the earth is flat.
Yeah, but like those people are just straight up like morons. I guess like this could be like kind of an ancient aliens thing.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like something like that, where it's like it's obviously exaggerated and mostly total bullshit, but like there's some sort of part of you that kind of goes, huh, I wonder. Again, I'd like to state on the record that no, I don't fucking believe that we evolved from dinosaurs, but like, yeah, that.
It's fun. It's fun to spend time dwelling on those things, like those conspiracy theories.
Yeah, this movie is fun. Like, how could you not watch? I don't understand how anybody watches this movie without. I mean, I think that's where I say about the focus on things. It's like just shut your goddamn mind off about why it's not a Mario Brothers movie and just have fun. And oh, the song. Can we talk about the Rock the Dinosaur song?
Oh, sure.
Because
Please take it away.
that song is fucking amazing, and they putting it in this movie was a stroke of sheer genius.
I didn't hate it, but I was just, my eyes rolled into the back of my skull. I was like, wow, we're just there. Like,
Like,
and it makes perfect sense for this movie, but I was
yes.
still like, really, we're doing this? Okay, all right, sure, why not?
There you go. That should have been the fucking tagline in this movie. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like this was just it's just it's an experience.
That's the best way of putting it. It is a movie experience because it's everything. It's a lot.
Yeah,
It is a lot.
and like I there's a lot of it that like I feel I wish we had gotten a sequel. The movie sets up a sequel at the end. And I kind of really wish we had gotten a sequel, even if it had been direct to video, because I would have liked to see a lot of these ideas continued. And just because it's not Super Mario Brothers, it sets up this really kind of cool dystopian world, and I would have absolutely loved to see more of it.
I actually would have liked to have seen more too, just because yeah, it's so different and weird. Even though again we talk about like all the inspirations for like the production and everything, but like it's its own version of that is so just gonzo and out there that like yeah, I want to spend more time. What else you got?
Yeah.
What else are you gonna invert from my perception of reality? Because I'm basically here for that, and I'm having the time of my life watching it. So more,
It's
I would have liked more. Like even if they did, because like they're doing like Dark Horse comics of like adaptations of previously
yeah.
canceled stuff now and whatever. Like that'd be kind of cool to see one of these.
There
Like just
there
to
is a there's a fan there or not fan. I think it was actually by the people who I don't know if it's the final draft or the original draft, but there is a comic of
oh
the I don't I think it's of the original what it was supposed to be.
oh my god.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was by the original, like the people who wrote the first draft, or maybe it was a sequel. Yeah, okay, yeah. It was the sequel. So the original movie writer. So yeah, there's an online comic which is a sequel to it.
Oh my god, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
And it's pretty much yeah, it's everything you could possibly want.
Okay.
It's
For the YouTube viewers and listeners, I'm gonna put up an image of that right here. I'll put a link down below for that, I guess,
it's
because
like
I'm very excited to check that out now.
oh my god, I yeah, it's kind of like it's weird because it's a lot of there's just so many things that like I don't know if influenced this or were influenced by this, but like shit like Tank Girl and the Fifth Element, there's like a lot of that going on. It's you should definitely check it out
Yeah, I'm gonna check out the comic, and everyone else should check out the Super Mario Brothers movie.
because it's great.
Yeah, it's a great time. There you go. It's at the very least a great good time. Tom, thank you for joining me. We've talked about the Super Mario Brothers movie for almost an hour, which might be the most anyone's ever talked about this movie.
Well, they should start talking about it more.
You should, because again, it's got people like the late great Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins in it.
It is Dennis. It's Dennis Hopper's second best movie, I would say.
Wow, what? I don't know if you're serious or not, but I'm not going to fight you on that.
Dead serious.
Oh my god, I don't agree.
His only
all.
better performance is in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Look, when you go for a deep cut like that, how am I supposed to disagree?
Because he's okay. How do you not love Dennis Hopper just being just out of control, giving no fucks?
Well, that's the best Dennis Hopper.
Exactly, and this is that movie.
No.
I wish I had more of him.
Yeah, he's in it a lot, but it's more.
Yeah,
more. The way he just spits when he talks, basically, at these people, these poor people. They're like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "You sick fuck."
Yeah. Oh god.
Can't even stand to be in their presence. It's great. It's great.
It is.
Again, Tom, thank you so much for joining me. Could you please let the people know where they could find you on the internet?
I am on the internet on Twitter at MetalLoud. I am also on YouTube if you search for MetalLoud. As well as I do have a website, which is www.media-dissection.com.
And thank you again.
Thank you.
Was a delight in visiting this movie for the first time since I was 9 or 10. I'll see you on the interwebs, and you could follow me at DEWGO Waffles on Twitter. Like and subscribe to the Waffle Press, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Check out our Patreon. We'll be rejigging that for 2019. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. If you didn't like this, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Luigi! Daisy! You better not hurt us!
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
Hold on. Mario! Luigi!
They're on the trail of a kidnapped princess and a mystical meteorite
It's incredible!
that gives anyone who possesses it the power to rule the universe.
Get me the rock! Come and get it, lizard breath!
Now, they must rescue the princess
Alien species escaping.
and make it safely back
Later, alligator.
to our world
Are you alright?
before time runs out.
Save him! Get him! Yes!
Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.